Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council. It's Monday, August the 15th, 2022, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Invocation this evening is going to be by Pastor Travis Wilson of the Peace Lutheran Church. And good evening, Travis. And thank you for kicking us off tonight.
Good to be here. Thank you. Let me offer a prayer for us. Gracious God, I give you thanks for this day and this place that we call South Haven, that we are called to live in and that we are called to steward. Grant wisdom, discernment, understanding, and peace on our mayor and city council persons in this meeting tonight. Send a spirit of understanding among all who listen and speak, that our city might hold a good future for residents and visitors alike. Guide and bless all of our city staff members, our law enforcement and public safety officials, business and schools in their pursuit to better citizens and this community. Bless our hands, eyes, ears, mouths as we work, live, and play together. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And now, if you're able, join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call.
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Wendy Onuki.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
Steve Schlack.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here. That takes us to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved. And now we have a proclamation for Hope Church. And I know I see Stephen and Craig. Do you guys want to come on out? Whoever wants to come. You're all welcome to come. You have a great church. Yeah, come on. We love proclamations. We like to proclaim good things that are happening, and this is a great church. Come on. Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. So I'll work through this. We'll make some comments at the end. So I will start this off, and I'll have Jeff finish it off. So this is a proclamation for Hope Reformed Church. Whereas Hope Church is a Reformed church that exists to escort others into a community of people who are worshiping Christ, growing in faith, and serving their neighbors. And whereas Hope Church seeks to be a faithful congregation of believers in Jesus Christ, standing firmly on God's Word while contributing in meaningful ways to life in the community. And whereas Hope Church has been present and active in the city of South Haven for almost as long as the city itself.
Whereas Hope Church has long been involved with We Care Incorporated, where they have consistently provided both support and leadership. And whereas Hope Church has been a part of the Open Door Food Ministry, is known for their commitment to the local schools, and has long invested itself in the ministry of youth and teens. And whereas Hope Church brought worship concerts to the summer schedule as a way to give local churches, citizens, and guests an opportunity to praise and worship together along the riverfront. Now, therefore, be it resolved that in these ways and so many others, Hope Church has been a vital part of South Haven community. The city of South Haven does hereby recognize and honor Hope Church as it celebrates its 150th anniversary. Thank you for your service to the community. Signed, Mayor Scott Smith, City of South Haven, on this date.
And I will just say, if you haven't seen the transformation, if you drove by and one day saw a big crane and a steeple being removed from that church, I get to be your neighbor and watch it occur. So it's a fantastic project. It's fun to watch, and it's a privilege that you've let us all kind of watch. So I don't know if you want to comment on that or anything else. It's fun to see it change.
Give us another week and it'll be back up in the sky.
All right. It's been a lot of fun.
Just so you know, historically in most villages or towns in history, the steeple was the tallest part of that community, and it was intended to remind people that there is a God in heaven to be loved and served. We're hoping to get ours back up there as soon as we can.
I believe it. I will thank you. And I will, I mean, your riverfront
We had
series.
one week of rain where we had to go inside, but we've had 16 weeks over 5 seasons. Only one rain out is a pretty good thing, and we had about 550 people out for the 2 concerts that were outside, so we're pleased again. And we want to thank you for your support and your permission that you give to us to do it, so thank you.
Well, and we thank you for working through the process. As you know, it's been a process, and you've, from sound checks to kind of helping us as a city work through some challenges with the waterfront usage, but we appreciate it. And again, I just thank you. And I will say, Stephen, you're always a very, just a good soul, just always very positive, forward-thinking, always you're a solutions person. I appreciate that. I mean, and just today we were chatting about some housing solutions. So I appreciate you're coming with suggestions to move forward, and I always appreciate that. So thank you. I'm a lot of levels. So do we do a photo, or
Yes, please, if we can.
want to do it with
If I can
council in the
give you
background?
this.
Get all these
And if
good-looking
you want to
people
line up
back
over
here.
there, we'll have the council members stand up, and we'll get a picture.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a busy night, so thank you for giving us this.
I don't blame you. Good call. Okay. Those are fun. All right, what else we got to do?
Item 7.
Oh, let's go there. Consent agenda, items A through D.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through D.
Second?
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Yeah, I had a request from a constituent that we take item C out of the consent agenda to get more information and discuss it.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. So we got a motion seconds to pull that off. So why don't we go ahead and let's do items A and D. Well, I got a motion second. Let's roll call those.
Arnold,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlack,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. So item C. So Kate, that's the professional services agreement. And I know between you, Griffin's around here too, but you guys could share with us kind of we've got a couple different items there to address. One has to do with our codification, and so just explain why.
Sure. We have a line item for professional consulting firms, and there's already an amount that is budgeted. What we are looking to do is keep Williams Works looking at just the zoning ordinance, since that is a priority of this council. But we also need additional resources to deal with the day-to-day traffic and just the numerous emails that the offices are getting, and we can't really do that without additional help. One, we want to make sure that we're advancing city priorities and, of course, getting our everyday jobs done, but we also know that we just can't do it with what we have. So we're suggesting to work with aligned planning, and we don't see this as adding to the budget, but we also don't know what the future may hold. So we would try to keep to that budget line item, but if we need to amend that, we will bring that to council.
Okay.
So if I hear you correctly, by taking some of the work off of William and Works' plate and we bring in the second person, it remains budget neutral.
That's
Because we're
correct. That's a better way of saying it,
moving
yes.
the- Okay. They'll be sharing the existing line item budget. Okay.
That's correct.
And would you say the volume of FOIAs and various other requests of lately is average, above average?
I would say it's above average, but in this one, we're talking about the building department consulting services. And we are seeing a number of increased emails to the building department about various issues. And to keep the output, as council wants us to be responsive to our constituents, we need additional help.
Okay, that's what it's for. All right, good, good.
I just have one question. Do you know, as of yet, what they would be mainly responsible for?
I think when we looked in here, we wanted to advance ongoing projects to planning, zoning, and development services.
Okay, we're good.
I'd like to make a motion then to have city staff to enter in a professional service agreement with Alignment Planning to provide supplementary planning and zoning and development services.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and second. We need a roll call. Please.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlock,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. That takes us to old business. City Council be asked to take the following actions regarding a proposed ordinance to prohibit discrimination in housing, public accommodations, and employment. First, we will hold a public hearing.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All right, motion and second to open public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is open. Kate.
We're bringing this back again. This is our second reading. We are proposing or recommending to City Council to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance. We did go back and correct some of the language that was brought up at our previous City Council meeting. And again, this is a non-discrimination ordinance that seeks to expand the classes of discrimination, of people who could fall under this ordinance. And it actually looks to look at housing opportunities, public accommodation, and employment. I'm happy to list out the accommodations, but we also have our attorney, Nick Curcio, here to talk about anything, so I can go into more detail if council would like.
Maybe just touch on what's just happened at the state regarding this, just as far as if you want to just share.
Sure, I'll give that one to Nick.
So there was a recent decision from the Michigan Supreme Court that held that the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, which is the general non-discrimination statute in the state of Michigan that covers these same three topics, public accommodations, housing, and employment, that the term sex, as used in that statute, includes sexual orientation. The court did not reach the issue of whether it also includes gender identity, which is another thing that would be covered expressly by this ordinance. So that issue is still open as a matter of state law, but as of about 2 weeks ago, the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act does now cover expressly, or has been definitively interpreted to cover discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, so those claims can proceed at the state level. This ordinance would supplement that. It would kind of provide an additional layer of protection for sexual discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, but it would also, it would actually do quite a bit that's not covered by current ordinances. It would cover discrimination on the basis of gender identity, and it would also cover discrimination on the basis of discrimination in the areas of public accommodations and employment, which are not currently covered by city ordinances. The city has a housing discrimination ordinance that covers housing discrimination on the basis of sex, national origin, race, and a few other categories, but does not have the city does not currently have a kind of comprehensive non-discrimination ordinance like what's before the council tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's good to understand that. Yes.
Nick, it's my understanding that about 2 or 3 years ago, the state of Michigan already had 43 cities that had passed such an ordinance. So we're now kind of following the other cities and trying to do this. Is that about right?
Yes, I don't know the number. I am pretty certain it's over 50 at this point, possibly significantly more than that, that have ordinances that are similar to this. This ordinance was based on ordinances in other Michigan communities, and those ordinances are typically based on the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act itself. So yes, this is not an outlier ordinance. This is something that a lot of communities in Michigan have done.
Thanks.
Very good. All right. I know this was brought to us originally by folks from the public, so at this point in time, why don't we hear from the public for those that would like to talk about it? Ms. Rosalie should definitely be up here talking about it. So if you just come on up, state your name, state your address.
Did you want to open the public hearing?
We did.
We did.
Oh, I'm
did.
sorry. I beg
I
your
say,
pardon.
did I miss it?
Hi, Rosalie Placati, 559 Monroe Boulevard, and
Gary McMillan from 506 Humphrey Street.
Good evening, both of you.
thank you so much for going to drive this baby home. We really appreciate the effort and work that went into it. I would like to include that there were a few organizations involved in this when we first came together a couple years ago, and that was the Interfaith Consortium organization. There was PUSH, there was Diversity Coalition, and of course, the Out Center. I keep wanting to say Outlook, the Out Center. So on behalf of all those organizations, on behalf of the residents and our visitors, thank you very much for working on this and hopefully voting this in tonight.
I'm here today to ask your support for this non-discrimination ordinance, and for me, it's very personal. We have a young trans granddaughter, and in every way, she's very much like your children and grandchildren. She's smart and she's kind. She loves her dog and movies and singing in the car. She's inquisitive and constantly trying to figure out the world. She can be a pistol at bedtime, quite honestly. She was very young when she came home from school and asked her parents, my son and daughter-in-law, if it was okay at home she could be a girl. And my first reaction to her declaring herself a girl was honestly one of fear. I was afraid for her future. I know that the world can be very unkind to those who are different. And I'm afraid that there are those who will try to hurt her for who she is. Those whose fear and beliefs will cause them to shame her, to reject her, and at the same time, punish her for who she is. And she is this lovely, loving, precious, wonderful granddaughter. And I'm afraid that the fear of others would turn into hate. And for our little granddaughter who's just trying to figure out who she is in this world, that hate will turn into harm for her. Today you have a chance to tell the world who we are here in South Haven. We're the grown-ups here in this room. We're the protectors of our town and our children. And we get to determine the attitudes and our actions for today and tomorrow. You, as the city council, have the honor of speaking for this special town we live in. I think sometimes this honor can kind of feel like a burden because there's no shortage of people who will come and tell you that you're wrong and that what you're doing is dumb. But I'm asking you tonight to approve this non-discrimination ordinance to remind ourselves that we always welcome all visitors with a determined kindness, and that on our best days, we welcome others and each other with acceptance and love. I hope that you'll approve this ordinance tonight, and when you do, I hope you get a little kernel of joy, that little kernel of joy doing what's right, and you could take that home with you, and you could stick it in your pocket, and you rub it when other things aren't going so well. And I hope that you understand that in a small way, you'll be bending the arc of the future towards kindness and acceptance for everyone, and for my granddaughter when she comes to visit her grandparents. Thank you, and thanks for all you guys do all the time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing that. It was
Yeah.
well stated, so thank you. That's why we're doing it, so.
Danielle Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. I am a minister in the United Church of Christ and have served at the Out Center for several years as part of their faith volunteer staff. Just being there so that when people get the message that they're not accepted, not loved, they've been wounded by church, by work, by housing, they came and poured their heart out and said, am I really a horrible person? And it was my joy to be able to reassure them that not only do I love them as they are, but God loves them as they are. But for our city to say, we accept you, we welcome you, your jobs are here, your houses are here, you're frolicking in our waves and sand. I have queer friends who are not feeling safe because this city hasn't made this declaration. They're not sure if it's okay for them to walk the streets after dark. I don't worry about that. If I'm with my husband and I hold his hand or I link my arm in his, I don't think anybody's going to look at me weird. But my queer friends do. They're not sure that this city is a place for them. So by adopting this ordinance, we are declaring ourselves to be welcoming to the LGBTQ community in a way that is necessary. in a way that, as the gentleman just said, is hopeful, is filled with joy, and for us to put a face to welcome for all persons. So I support the non-discriminating ordinance, and I thank you for considering this and voting it in tonight.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anybody else? All right. How about a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's closed. Next, City Council will be asked to consider the adoption of the proposed ordinance to prohibit discrimination in housing, public accommodations, and employment.
Make a motion to adopt the proposed ordinance to prohibit discrimination in housing, public accommodations, and employment.
Second.
All right, we got a motion, second. Any other questions? Nothing? I'll just say this has been a good process to work through. I'm glad we are getting it on the books, and I appreciate the comments that were made here tonight. So that's why we're getting it done. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is done. Thank you. All right, let's go. All right, next. City Council will be asked to consider the couple items regarding 206 Black River Street. So first, we're going to hold a public hearing on a resolution to vacate the road right-of-way adjacent to 206 Black River Street.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to open public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's open. So Gull Lake Marine, which has been painted recently, by the way. It's looking good down there. So walk me through. Who's got it?
All right, we're going to get started with Griffin because we have a number of items to go through. It might be helpful to kind of talk through what we're going to be asking council to do. So Griffin, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. I'm real excited to be here this evening. As you all know, we're talking a little bit about Gull Lake Marine, which was a really exciting announcement from earlier this spring. In April this year, it was announced that Gull Lake Marine, a West Michigan-based marina operator, had acquired the former All Seasons Marina property. Staff had been in contact with Gull Lake Marine for several months leading up to this sale and had learned that their plans for the site align quite closely with the community's vision and goals for the site that were determined based on some public engagement exercises in 2019. Since that acquisition, city staff has been working with Gull Lake Marine to update a utility easement on the property at 206 Black River and to explore whether or not some additional road right-of-way adjacent to that property could be vacated and used in conjunction with their future plans. As you can see up behind me, there is a map that illustrates the existing road right-of-way. If you want to take a look at the yellow area on the upper left-hand side, that is the 66 feet of road right-of-way, which is the standard amount for a residential road. There's also that blue piece to the immediate right of that yellow area that is also existing road right-of-way. So that's road right-of-way in addition to the 66 feet, which is the standard amount. That is the area that Gull Lake Marine is looking for the city to vacate. So what's before you this evening are a few different requests associated with this property. The first one is obviously to hold the public hearing that we're in right now. But then City Council will get asked to vacate road right-of-way, which is the blue area, so the extra road right-of-way, if you will, as well as release the existing utility easement over that area and replace it with a new utility easement, which would encompass both the area in purple, which is where there's an existing easement, and also allow access over the right-of-way that would be supposedly vacated this evening. So I'm happy to do whatever I can to answer any questions. Hopefully that map helps put it into perspective a little bit. But I can say with confidence that these actions would continue to allow city staff and the Department of Public Works to access existing utilities as needed for maintenance or replacement work, and also maintain the standard amount of road right-of-way needed for residential streets.
Okay, which would be the biggest issue, to make sure you can continue to get down there and access. So that's the biggest question. Okay, well, this is a public hearing. Are there any public questions on this, or anyone from Gull Lake here? Probably not tonight, so that's okay. Public questions? Going once, going twice. Close public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Motion second to close public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, it's closed. I guess additional council questions. I can actually do all these in one, if everyone's game. I could, so the motion right now would be, we're looking to adopt a resolution to vacate the road right-of-way adjacent to 206 Black River Street, approve a proposed release of the easement, as well as approve a proposed utility easement. So kind of as three, just we need them.
So moved.
And for City Council's note, I don't think a resolution number got added into the packet, but it would be Resolution 2022-21.
Good with that?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-21 as read by the mayor.
Second.
All right, motion second. Any other questions, comments? I'm just glad that we have Gull Lake Marine. That's a good.
Question.
Yes, sir.
And it's just a question, not on what we're working on, but it's on the layout up there. Is that the old road on the underlay, under the yellow, or is that the new placement of the new road after it was redone?
The road that you see as presently constructed on there is the existing road. I do believe as you can see, the extra right-of-way would extend to the left of there. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but.
I guess my question
Okay.
is, on the right side of the yellow, at the end of, not even on the Gull Lake Marine property, just past the Gull Lake, more towards the condos, it looks like we have roadway without road right-of-way.
I think there's some sidewalk there, and that would fall within the existing road right-of-way, is my understanding. That may just be an issue with where the color overlay on the map falls. We did conduct a survey that it would be formally attached to the proposed utility easement to make sure that none of that happens in practice.
So in that area, we're keeping the old right-of-way and just adding this new yellow portion to it?
We're not adding any right-of-way. We're looking to vacate, so to give up some right-of-way. We would be vacating the right-of-way that's in the blue there, and we would be maintaining where the existing road is, that yellow area.
Standard.
Okay, what about in between the yellow and blue then?
We would keep that. We wouldn't be giving any of that up.
Okay, so the yellow maybe should have been to the blue then, there?
Yellow, I think it's, can you show the key, Griffin?
I don't have it.
Zoom out a little bit.
Can you talk on your microphone so they can hear you?
I believe the yellow is intended to show the 66-foot minimum right-of-way needed. I don't
And
think it
that's from the
shows.
center of the road?
Yes.
So maybe it's off alignment from the map then?
I don't think it's showing the entire right-of-way. I think it's just supposed to show the minimum amount needed.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, good question. We had a motion, we had a second, right? Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Griffin, what would happen if if it stays as it is now?
So if City Council were to not approve this, then Gull Lake Marine would not have the opportunity to use that space for their future plans.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Like I said, I'm just encouraged they're investing, so that's good news for this community. They're going to be a great partner. So we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Thank you for that update. All right, so next new business. So City Council will receive an update on the initiative petition seeking short-term rental regulations. So just as we get started here, we will be taking public comments at the end of this relative to this petition, rentals, all the above. So after Kate and staff are done sharing their thoughts, that will be the time for that. We will not be taking those comments during the audience. Will be heard on items not on the agenda. So we're just going to get that done at this time. So everyone's clear ahead of time when we're going to be taking them. And on that note, now Kate, is Tom coming up now, or where do you want it? You want to start it and then bring Tom up next?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
So we have Tom Forshee from Dickinson Wright. As you know, when we received this petition, it was determined that it would be a good idea to have special counsel, not our normal attorney, Nick Curcio, review this as this pertains specifically with election law, and there's been a lot of litigation in this matter. Also, we wanted to have just any kind of objectivity we can, making sure that everyone understood that we took this very seriously. So Tom is here to kind of talk about the petition and the matter, why it was rejected, and there's 5 issues in that. I also want to address maybe some concerns that I had heard from the community that when we had published the petition and the signatures, that there were some concerns that this would be kept confidential, and there was assertions to that. I do want to state that when the petitioners did, or the organizers did, come to the city clerk, she told them that she wasn't sure, as this would be her first initiative petition. And she had conferred with the city attorney, who said, no, this would be a public document, so it would be subject to FOIA and could be released. She did not confer that back to them. She was in the middle of her election, so I apologize if people had poor information, but I can tell you that having worked at the city, we've released petitions and signatures and previous initiative petitions, namely the one on August 5th, 2019 for the marijuana petition that was published in our addenda packet. So I did put this on the website and did put that on there knowing that it was going to be published, and I considered this a matter of significant public interest as we've been having members of this group, members of this of our citizens coming to this body and been very concerned about short-term rentals and other concerns. So in the spirit of transparency, I published that. I should say that also, this is something that we've been trying to work towards to accommodate the request and what council would like to see, which is additional transparency. And I take that similar to the Overton project, when we have created a whole page and added a lot of documents. Instead of encouraging FOIAs for something where it's a significant public interest, we've just made a page and we've added documents, so if anyone wants to see what's going on with that development, they can go to that page rather than submit a FOIA. So with that preface, I'd like to have Tom Forshee come up and explain the deficiencies of the petition and kind of walk through why those are pertinent not only to the charter but also to election law. So Tom, if you'd like to go into the memo.
Hi, Mayor and council members. It's nice to meet you. My name is Tom Forshee. I'm with Dickinson Wright Law Firm. And we were retained to look at this petition and to look at it objectively without any preference in the outcome or predetermination of any kind, and just evaluate the petition to see if it's sufficient for the city clerk to certify. I think I'll start off by saying, and you've probably read the letter that we've sent to the clerk, some of the topics seem like minutia, right? They seem nitpicky or small, or if you were grading a paper, you'd say, oh, that's not a big deal. So in election law, the state Supreme Court and other courts have consistently held that petitions have to strictly comply with the law, and it's not good enough just to be substantial. Sometimes the law will say substantial compliance. So if you get basically, substantially what they're going for in the law, then that's good enough. But in election law, substantial compliance isn't enough. Strict compliance is required. And there's a Michigan Supreme Court case that talks just about that. In fact, about font size, which was one of the reasons that we found that the petition was defective. But with that preface, I will go through the 5 reasons that we found that we advise the clerk not to present this to City Council or to certify it for the ballot. The first one is the petition does not comply with the Home Rule Cities Act, Section 25, and it requires that all initiatory petitions shall state, and this is quote, shall state what body, organization, or person is primarily interested in and responsible for the circulation of the petition and securing of the amendment. If the requirement is not satisfied, the petition's proposal does not qualify for placement on the ballot, and the city clerk cannot certify its sufficiency. I should also mention that each of these are an independent basis, that it's not sufficient. So it's not just looking at these in the congregate or looking at it all together, but each one of these is an independent finding. The second reason was that the petition does not comply with the Home Rule Cities Act and City Charter when it talks about the petition does not include a recitation or republication of the sections of the short-term rental ordinance that would be amended. And that's consistent with law and the city charter, section 7.3, that requires questions to be submitted to the electors shall be published in full with existing ordinance provisions that would be altered or abrogated by the proposed ordinance amendment or other question. And the case law talks about, if you don't have the language that's already there and show what's changing, that it's confusing to the signer. And so that was the legislative intent behind that section of both the state law and the city charter provision. Here's one where you may think this sounds minor, but again, substantial compliance is not good enough. But the petition does not comply with section 7.2 of the South Haven City Charter. That says that all ordinances, probably how you do them when you do go through your normal course of approving an ordinance, it shall say that the style of all ordinances shall be the City of South Haven ordains. The proposed ordinance attached to the petition did not include that required language. The petition does not comply with Michigan election law, MCL 1684826 sub 6 and 168-544C sub 1. Under Michigan election law, the required warning to electors signing the petition must be in 12-point bold-face type, and the balance of the petition must be printed in 8-point type. And this was not, there's an attachment that shows that that was not the case in this. And this cites that the letter to the clerk cited the case Stand Up for Democracy versus Secretary of State, which is a Michigan Supreme Court case that talks about strict compliance being necessary. And number 5, the Home Rule Cities Act does not permit petitioners to amend a zoning ordinance using the initiative process. So there's a line of cases, one's called Korash, and there's others, but they said the Michigan legislature intended for zoning ordinances to always go through the Zoning Enabling Act process, and that was what the legislature it has to go to the Planning Commission, there has to be a public hearing, then it comes to City Council. There's a set process for zoning ordinances. And the question in Korash was, could you do a zoning ordinance through other means besides the Zoning Enabling Act by petition? And the answer was no. So in this case, although it's teed up as a regulatory ordinance, there are elements of it that are talk about the location and where things will be located, and there are actually some specific there's some specific language in there that talks about certain provisions overriding the zoning ordinance, section 1743F. Because this is a zoning ordinance, in effect, it cannot be changed through initiative petition, but would have to go through the Zoning Enabling Act procedure. So for each of these 5 reasons, we advised the city clerk that the petition was deficient. I guess what I should say one more thing. When I'm talking about the kind of minutia, the small nature of these, we're predicting what a court would do, and so it's not really what some of us would disagree with that notion that you should reject a petition based on the font size, and I understand that completely. What we're trying to do is predict, and using the case law that's already out there, precedential case law from the Michigan Supreme Court, to say how a court would treat that. So if this were to go, for example, if this were to go forward with those defects, someone could challenge this petition, and we're saying they would likely prevail in challenging it based on these factors. Therefore, we have to advise that it's deficient and shouldn't be certified. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, my first question is, this was a petition initiated by and for hopefully the betterment of some residents. Some residents have felt that way. And it seems that if residents initiated it, they had 3 lawyers that looked at it. What is the chance of any community, what are the odds of anyone writing up a petition like this and having it pass? Is it 1 in 100? Is it that do pass, or is it 99 out of 100 that do pass and we're the unusual one? give me some sense that this is normal, because I've talked to a few other people in other communities, and what they say doesn't mean it's right, but they've said this is highly unusual. So I just want to get some sense how normal this is. That's my first question.
Sure. So I've had some experience with election law and with petitions in general. I can say I believe that initiatory petitions have increased in frequency. I don't think they used to be quite as common as they are now. We've seen a particularly large amount of them in the marijuana context recently. There was a marijuana petition, and now this is because they kind of use the same form across the state. But many of those were rejected by the clerk for having various defects, including, zoning type ordinance provisions that were included, but also things like it wasn't the correct page size. It has to be 8.5 by 14. And a wide swath of marijuana petitions were rejected. There were lawsuits on those, and the ones I was involved in and the ones that I'm familiar with, the circuit court upheld the clerk's decision on that matter. The number of those that passed, I wouldn't want to guess. I think the sample size is probably small because, like I said, I think there weren't quite as many in the past, and now we're getting more and more. And perhaps it's kind of a perfect storm because election law is very rigid. And, when you make laws here, you're being very deliberate. You're doing things per your city charter, and you have an attorney that can look at it and go over it, and you can tweak it if you need to on the second reading, and you can make things a little better and then make sure it's all compliant, and then it comes forth. Sometimes when there's an initiative petition, people just don't recognize what they're getting themselves into as far as the rigidity of the election law and all the case law that says substantial compliance isn't good enough. So I think we're seeing people submit things that they think would be okay on its face, but are ultimately not good enough. But as long as you check all the boxes, it potentially could come through at the next election cycle or whenever. So, and some do get through that are.
So my final question is, and this is not my battle, whether it goes through or it doesn't. I'm here to serve what the people want. But I will tell you, when 420 signatures come in from the city, that's a lot of people. I know people have said it's a small group. 422 to be exact is not a small group in this town. And not even one signature was kicked out. Everyone was verified, which is amazing because I know other communities that have had that exposure. So here's my big question, and I've asked Kate twice and haven't gotten an answer. She had to refer it to you, so I'm going right to the source.
All right.
If, and I don't know this to be the case, but if the NNN group wants to try again and go back and get the signatures and rewrite this, so they're not wasting their time, so we're not frustrating residents, could they write it first, get you or whomever approve it, or have them make the changes before they go out and get signatures again? The worst thing I think we could do to our community, whether people agree or not, is have them go out and chase down all these signatures again, resubmit it to you, and you say, oh, the font's wrong. And I'm picking on, that's an easy one. But I'm only teasing,
Sure.
to find something else wrong. Can they come to you first with a rewritten proposal? Because one of the lawyers is a municipal lawyer, which even makes it more frustrating for the group. And he said, given any three lawyers, give them the same document, and you will find three different opinions on that document. So could they come to you if the city uses you again, assuming even the group does it again? Can they do it before they go out and get signatures?
I know that some communities do that I've heard of that happening. Would I recommend you doing that? I would not. I know you want the answer to be yes.
No, I just want an answer.
Yeah. And the reason is because then, and Nick can weigh in too if he disagrees. Two lawyers in the room, so we'll disagree on something here at some point. But you're giving legal advice basically to a third party. If they come to you and say, is this petition, and there may be many factors, these are just like 5 factors that happen to be deficient, but there are many other factors under the law that make a petition good or bad or, able to be certified or not certified. So you'd be giving a third party legal advice saying, yes, you're checking the box legally on this. We don't know what would happen once they walk away. That petition page may not be used for the person on the street collecting the signatures, or it may change in between, and then they're coming back to you and saying, well, now we've submitted something to you and you pre-approved it, and now you're saying it's not good enough. I think it introduces risk into your system. I understand the reasoning, and it sounds reasonable. But from a risk management standpoint, we would just want to be not providing advice to a third party. And really, if they engage an attorney who can go through some of these more technical things, hopefully they could catch everything. And it is mostly on a form that's state approved. So,
to add a few things to that, as Tom alluded to earlier, there is the possibility under the election law for a third party, being a group of people or a person who opposes the measure, to oppose it in court. They can sue the clerk just as the proponent. The opponent of a petition can sue the clerk just the same way that a proponent of the petition can do so. And then that kind of puts the city in a bind if the city has kind of preordained the form, and then a third party comes forward and finds defects in the petition. So that's one reason that's given by communities that decline to do pre-petition review. And that has been the city's position in the past. Other petitioners, I believe, have asked the city for advice on petitions in the past, and the standard answer in past election cycles has been that it's not a service that the city provides. Again, following up on something Tom said, the Secretary of State's office does put out a kind of guidance document for petitions. That document is helpful. It provides a lot of this font size information. It is tailored for statewide petitions, which are very slightly different than city petitions. It doesn't have some of the city charter provisions in it, for example, but that's a good basis for kind of going through that kind of form he was alluding to, and the various font sizes and things that are required. And also there's professional printing services, I believe, that do these as well and can kind of help you with some of the technicalities. So all that's to say, I agree with Tom's advice that it's not recommended to do pre-submission review of petitions. But I think
Thanks
there are
for
some
answering the
things
questions. I appreciate it.
sure.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else, or we could get some public comments going? Maybe stay close in case we.
Yeah, I can just sit right here, yep.
So why don't we go ahead, get some public comments on this. If you'd like to come up, my favors will be that you address this body, not turn around and talk to the crowd. If you feel the need to do that, I will tell you now, I will ask you to sit down. So address comments here. What else should we say? Be civil. No personal attacks. Come in here. The other one, for the sake of time, seems we have more than 2 people here tonight. The applause after every comment is, if we can keep that down, that would be, or just say none. That would be fantastic. And if someone has said something, rather than me repeating, you can feel free to defer to the earlier person and say, I agree with that person. So, anything else? Got it? And again, anything related to this petition, rentals, this is the time, not when we're doing comments not on the agenda. No double dipping. So, on that note, if anyone would like to come up, state your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Walt Placotti, 559 Monroe Boulevard. resident voter of South Haven. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I want to address our hundreds of supporters and petition signers for the record. Thank you. To the council people that have listened and supported our position, thank you. We tried to address the current business STR ordinance situation by preparing an amendment that reflects the wish for balance in our shared community. In our efforts, we asked the city to review our amendment for form and language, and we were told the city cannot assist. We acted in good faith, did our best with the tools we had. We had 20 folks step up to be on our petition brigade, and they gathered 422 signatures in 12 days. This is no small group of vocal citizens. The petitions have been rejected by the city's outside counsel for not fully complying with election law, but not one signature was kicked back. We intend to move forward to address those concerns. Neighborhood Need Neighbors will continue working to protect neighborhoods and our year-round economy. It is clear what residents want and what all the reports have shown. The results are one and the same. City Council could move this forward by taking our amended ordinance and acting on it. If not, we're prepared to once again get the language verified as correct, go back to our 422 supporters, and do it again. This will result in a special election at the city's cost. Please visit www.neighborhoodsneedneighbors.net and/or our Facebook page and/or email us at info@neighborhoodsneedneighbors.net for more information and updates. And please remember that this all started with one line. We just want what the residents want. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, I'm Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana, full-time voting resident here at South Haven. I would like to speak to a couple things that have been said recently here at City Council meetings. The first is regarding a non-resident business STR owner and operator who spoke at a City Council meeting earlier this summer, stating that our town had been built on the back of tourism. This owner had questioned a tradesperson doing work at one of her rentals, asking how much of his business comes from STRs versus resident homeowners. The worker stated 80% of his business is from STRs. When this business STR owner and operator spoke at the City Council meeting, one of our highly regarded South Haven residents stood up to respond. This longtime community member declared emphatically that our town had not been built on the back of tourism. In fact, it was built on the backs of hardworking middle-class folks who lived, worked, and raised generations of families here at South Haven. More recently, another non-resident commercial STR owner spoke about how tourism has been happening here at South Haven since 1880. First of all, it helps to clarify that the north side of South Haven has been the primary destination for tourists for over 100 years. Apparently, this has always been a resort area, but from around the 1920s to the late 1960s, it also became a vibrant Jewish resort destination. These folks, often discriminated against, found community here and were welcomed at South Haven. The north side of South Haven, this is the part that has commonly been the resort and tourist area. Meanwhile, the south side was where the residents of South Haven lived, worked, raised families, and made their homes. It was not a tourist destination because families lived in and occupied the homes that are now being operated as STRs. I would bet that back in those days, when every home was a family residence, The tradespeople and house cleaners would say 80% of their business would have been from resident homeowners. The reason it's 80% from STRs now is because the majority of these South Side homes are STRs, not full-time resident occupied. I think it's important for us to remember where we came from here at South Haven, a modest, hard-working, middle-class town. Times do change, industries shut down, factories close. But at South Haven, the people who were here back then are still here. Those are the backs this town was built upon. They and we deserve the right to have our town feel like home. We don't want it to be primarily a tourist destination overrun by STRs. An example of this is Clinton Street between Indiana Avenue and Maple Street. Of the 9 homes on this block, 7 of them are business short-term rentals. It is rather weird living in a town that's overwhelmed by strangers for 3 to 4 months, then reverts back to a small, pleasant little town the rest of the year. There should be more balance. We'd all love it if STRs were homes with permanent residents living, working, and raising families here at South Haven. We have the data and support for this perspective. There is the Upjohn Report, the Master Plan, and the Economic Plan that was authored by Jim Hettinger. 422 South Haven residents have signed a petition to support moving forward on this.
You've got 1 minute, just so you know.
Would the council consider taking this amendment right to planning, recognizing the 250 cap on business STRs and a limit of 2 per block? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have fact sheets I'd like to pass. My name is Roxanne Leader. I live at 751 Fair Ridge Road, and I own a business downtown called Decadent Dogs. I purchased D-Dogs in 2011 and moved full-time to South Haven and was delighted and still am delighted to be here. Before that, I owned a second home in South Haven, 109 Superior Street, from 1982 to 2011. And we lived in Kalamazoo at this point. Owning a property here in 1982 is the time post-industry, I'll call it. At that time, many of the homes were in disrepair. In fact, at 109 Superior Street, first block, second block off the lake, the house across the street from us had a porch falling off. Other houses were in neglect. And there was a loss of jobs along with industry, and South Haven was not really considered a highly desirable place to move to. The city made a conscious effort at that time to focus more on tourism and develop the Riverside Park. This was followed by homeowners improving their homes, the city government approving infrastructure. That little house on Superior Street has a value today 14 times what we paid for it in 1982. Compare that to our house in Kalamazoo purchased in the 80s. It has a value 4.6 times. As a business owner, I estimate that short-term rentals are about 20% of the tourism in this town, and I'd like to comment about the term shop local in relationship to South Haven, to the locals, and to tourism. For every $100 spent at a locally owned business, $73 stays in South Haven, whereas if you go to a big chain, $43 stays. It's pretty obvious that tourists spend a lot of money in South Haven. It's no secret that people on vacation go out to eat more. They rent boats, they rent bikes, they go to movies, all these things. And I'll just give you an example. When I was visiting my second home here in South Haven, we would go out for ice cream virtually every night after the sunset. I live here all year round. I go out for ice cream about 6 times a year. Things change when you live someplace. Because both locals and tourists shop at my store, I have 5 full-time employees, including myself. That makes it 6. All 6 of us live here in South Haven. 1 lives in the township. We all spend our money here, we work here, and that's great. So you can see that when profits stay local, it increases the community's wealth and tax revenue. Now multiply my little store times all the stores in South Haven, and that's where your economy comes from. And then another local thing that I think the locals can appreciate is within 5 blocks of City Hall, we have 24 restaurants. We're just a town of 3,970 people, but we've got 24 restaurants. We also have coffee shops and stuff to choose from. Now, compare that to a city of other cities that might just have 7 restaurants, and that's in your fact sheet. Local shopping is crucial to continued growth of a town because the success of current businesses attracts and encourages other entrepreneurs to start local businesses and encourages other businesses to move to South Haven, which ultimately leads to more jobs and revenue recirculating throughout our community. The Chamber of Commerce reports that since 2017, they've added 56 businesses in South Haven and 32 in the townships surrounding South Haven. My favorite parts of South Haven are its walkability and the friendliness of the neighborhoods.
And
I love
Roxanne, we are
living
out of
in
time.
South-
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for
Have a good night. Love your shop, and so does my dogs. Oh, come on up.
My name is Mark McClendon, 712 Phoenix. I do a corporation here in town, and we have somewhere near 60 people that work here. It's hard to find people to work. Anybody who suggests that there are no jobs needs to, walk down the street and look at all the help wanted signs. My comment is not for or against short-term rentals. It's in favor of limiting how many short-term rentals we have, which, make no mistake, are businesses that are operating in residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Oh, sorry. You're next.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Pat Ray, and I live at 223 Oak Street with my husband, Frank. We discovered South Haven when we stayed in a vacation rental in a nearby town. We became intrigued with it. We ended up buying a home here in 2013. It was a vacation rental for 3 seasons, after which we moved here, and we've been permanent residents since 2015. We love South Haven. We love living here, and we are very close to the Oak Street Beach. I cannot support additional limits on vacation rentals. I fear that it would be a negative to our property values and to our economy. There is a reason that VRBOs and, short-term rentals are successful. They are answering a need to the people that want to vacation here. Families love to stay on vacation sometimes with extended families, and small children are more comfortable there than in a hotel or a B&B, which may not even accept small children. Renting a house for the extended family to gather around the dinner table is a tourist trend that we in South Haven can fulfill. So by all means, Let's register our rentals with the city, give contact information to emergency services. Let's enjoy the sales taxes and the higher property tax. No one has mentioned that. These homes pay a higher property tax than we permanent residents do. Let's collect reasonable fees to cover the necessary oversight. Let's report dangerous and unruly situations to authorities if a neighborly request is not heeded. Let's set intelligent rules and enforce them. Vacation rentals are responding to the needs of 21st century families and should be embraced. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Weber. My home is at 606 Maple Street. I'm actually here this evening because I was asked to speak on behalf of about 100 different community members, short-term rental owners, residents, and businesses that have come together on a common interest. First of all, we would like to thank the City Council and the city staff for your leadership and dedication to South Haven. We know that it's sometimes a thankless job and has been even more difficult in recent months with the issue of short-term rentals. We want to make it clear as a group that we do support the current ordinance from 2018 and its cap on short-term rentals. None of us want unlimited short-term rentals in the city of South Haven. We do understand, though, that the city spent a significant amount of time and money drafting the current ordinance, and you should be applauded for those efforts. In 2021, there were only 4 documented complaints against short-term rentals with the South Haven Police Department. And the annual inspections have made it safer for our wonderful families to come to visit our community year after year, and have also given the city a way to address issues as they arise. But as a group, we also have been listening to the community and understand that there's things that need to be addressed to be better neighbors. And we've been sharing good practices, best practices among ourselves, and how we can improve some of the situations like trash collection, parking over sidewalks, and things of that nature. We've also heard that there's large corporations buying up homes in South Haven, but according to the city staff data, that is simply not true. In the city of South Haven, only 9 individuals own 2 or more residences with a short-term rental permit, and the rest own 2 or less. Of these people, families, 39 individuals are South Haven residents, full-time residents. While we feel that the existing ordinance is working, we appreciate and respect that the city regularly reviews important policies and that short-term rentals is one of the priorities for this year. We support the community leaders as you go through the standard process and collect accurate data so that you can make the best decisions for the community as a whole. And we, as members of the community, are pleased that you are now moving forward with the economic study, and our group is willing to provide you with any data points that will help with these efforts. We do feel that short-term rental owners have been kept out of past data collections. As you collect the information, we ask that you continue to move forward with the focus groups where we can get the community together to better understand each other, to clarify misconceptions, and talk about how we can all work together to create a thriving community. And while we might not all be South Haven residents currently, many of us are planning to be in the future and have a strong commitment to the community both economically and socially. And again, we just want to thank you for working together to maintain South Haven's reputation as a wonderful place to live, work, and visit. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. And your kids are still amazing, I'll just say. You should take a page out of Roxanne's book and go get some ice cream.
Hi, I'm Kim Silva, and I live at 200 Michigan Avenue. And I want to clarify that I don't think anybody here wants to eliminate short-term rentals. I mean, they have their place. One of the reasons why these things spring up, like VBROs and all that, are because sometimes hotels charge too much, and the average person wants to be able to vacation like everybody else, and they're going to look for a cheaper alternative. And that's fine. The problem is that here in South Haven, we have way more short-term rentals than any other community per capita. And that's not good. Our neighborhoods are destroyed. We ignored our zoning, and where do we have a neighborhood? Everybody gets pushed back. Trying to find a place to live, if you want to stay in this town, is virtually impossible. If a home is affordable, it's unlivable. And the ones that are livable are bidding wars where people will come in from out of town and pay way more than the asking price. And I know this from personal experience, and I have other friends who have gone through it too. We are selling and killing the very thing that attracted people here in the first place. Tourism is great. Tourist dollars are great, but don't equate tourists with STRs. Tourists are still going to come. And if you really want to increase the valuability, it's rareness. Everybody knows that. If you have fewer of something, it becomes more valuable. If you have fewer places, fewer STRs, the wait list is going to be incredible. People may end up wanting to spend a lot more just to stay here. But in the meantime, a city government is supposed to be working for the residents. There's a difference between property owners and residents. And you can say, well, these property owners may become residents. Yay, that's great. And when they become residents, they can have a voice in the government also. It is not a resident's responsibility to support people outside of the city, but it's the city's responsibility to support its residents. And 422 people in 12 days is no small potatoes. So you can quibble about the letter of the law and the size of the font, but you need to recognize the spirit behind it. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Oh, come on up, Ryan.
Hi, Council. Ryan Servetus, 525 Superior Street, apartment 100. I'm going to come to you on a different personal note, and we hear a lot about outside people who own short-term rentals. Well, this year and the year before, we got lucky that we actually did short-term rentals for locals. Not for making money or anything you'd think of, but one person lost their job. To keep their home, they lived with a family member for the summer to get their bills corrected. That saved them, a local. Another one this summer came to us because of their medical bills. A senior citizen in town didn't want to lose their home, went and lived with their family for the summer, and while they did that, we rented their place out to help support their medical bills. So there are locals who are also renting out. It's not people just from out of town. One thing to think about that too is the property rights of everybody. A lot of people today don't have a good savings for retirement, especially in South Haven. If you look at what the annual income is in Van Buren County, now take the residents. They don't have a lot of savings, at least from what we look at and what they're bringing in. Putting a deed restriction on everyone's home will take away that value, because a lot of people look to retire and take the value out of their home and move to their next section of life for the next chapter and live the next home with somebody else. That's something I'd hate to see placed on our locals of everybody in town is deed restrictions. We do have a set number on our numbers right now of STRs. So a balance, yes, we have a balance and it's there. The other thing I want to talk about is when you have an owner and they come in, so we talked about somebody said something about the hotel rooms, staying in hotels. Hotels are great. We've stayed there, but nothing's better when you bring your family once a year to a vacation home to stay together. You go to a hotel room and you got your grandparents, your kids, and other people with you. There's just not a lot of room. You're all in separate rooms. We had another person come in. The gentleman was in his 80s. He was not going to be here another year. He got to spend one more last summer in South Haven with his extended family, and they loved it. Great memories for every generation with them. So there's more than just making money on this, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that we have locals and people and families coming in and enjoy it, and they love it, and hopefully one day they'll decide to stay here full time. But just want to make sure people understand there's a human aspect to this as well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Elaine Herbert, 404 North Shore Drive. I have just a couple of questions, and I'm glad that the attorney is still here. It's kind of a civics lesson, this initiative thing, and I have a master's degree in political science and American history. I taught it. I didn't know this stuff, so it was kind of interesting. And I have a couple of questions. I looked at the city charter about Section 711 initiatory and referendary petitions and read all that stuff. And I just didn't see any of that stuff. Maybe when we recodify the stuff, we might want to put some of that stuff in there for the average everyday guy who wants to put in an initiatory petition. It just says we shall be signed by not less than so many electors, that as soon as it's done, we give it to the clerk, and then she checks it over, and then within so many days, she puts it in and presents it to the council, and the council shall do this in 30 days. That's in our code of ordinances. It doesn't have all of this other stuff. So I'm kind of interested in that. The other thing I'm interested in is at the very top of your letter, it says it's something about, you didn't say it absolutely has to be. You said it's kind of certain amount of deficient. So I'm wondering how mandatory it is. I mean, is that absolutely positively must be rejected? And my other question is, was the marijuana initiative put through this same laundry list of things? Was it sent out for all of these things? That would be my question on this. So thank you for the civics lesson. And I'm just amazed because, a normal citizen checks their own rules, and none of that was in there. So thank you.
Great, thanks. Do you want to comment on the process the marijuana thing went through? I know it was the same, but.
When I worked as the assistant city manager, I'm not sure what the former manager did. I do know that was, I'm going to guess, reviewed by Attorney Curcio, as this was a matter of significant interest, and I thought it'd be best to be reviewed by independent, objective special counsel.
Oh, that's good. It's reviewed. Okay.
One thing to add to that, as Ms. Hosier said, I did do the review on that one. It did not go to special legal counsel. There has been a number of marijuana-related challenges since that time. I think that's part of the reason why Ms. Hosier made the decision she made. Another thing is that petition actually was rejected the first time, and then they redid the petition, and it got through on the second effort.
Sounds good. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Joe Escavage, 505 St. Joseph Street.
Good evening.
Been a resident since '77. And when we moved to South Haven, we had a lot of good paying jobs. We had National Motors, Bond Aluminum, Everett Piano, Palisades, and those are all gone now. And a lot of the things that people are saying is we want to make it affordable to live in South Haven. Unless you get the jobs, the people aren't going to make the wages they need to buy a home. All the jobs we got in town right now are tourism jobs. There are a few small job shops, and that's about it. And the older residents, a lot, as it was brought up, a lot of their money is in their home. If you start limiting or changing the laws, like we said, we do have limits on how many short-term rentals we have. That is going to affect their investment, basically taking money out of their pocket. So that's the biggest thing. And the other thing is that I don't think the city council should decide it. It should be brought for a vote. Because, again, it's affecting their bottom pocket. And they should have a say in it. I know they do elect you people, but they should have a vote on whether it's going to get instituted or not. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anybody else?
Hi, I'm Tim Reinick. I live at 98 Erie. We've had our place for 30-some years, lived here for 12 or 15. I want to talk about, not so much about how things were, but For many years after we moved here, there were no rentals within 100 yards of me. Now there's seven. They were all full-time residents. Now there are 3. As you go down the block towards Indiana, there's 15 rentals. And some of them are businesses, those huge places. So I don't know about you all, but I don't think you'd want to be putting up with that and seeing more rentals come in. The other point is people are concerned about not being able to sell places. Are you kidding? You sell every place every month here. Businesses, the golden goose lays on the lake and will continue to lay the golden eggs, and businesses will continue to thrive. So, I don't know. There needs to be a balance, for sure. At least on our side of the woods. There's too many places. So, please consider that. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Was there anybody else? Go.
Hi, Heidi Campbell, 216 Erie. So there's all this talk about balance, and there are caps. It's 500 and whatever, that's the cap. Not including PUDs, not including condos, not including. So the real number is what? I don't know, 900, 1,000? I don't know. I don't know what the number is. But you have a responsibility. The way that this STR problem has come about, the infighting, the hatred, I have never in my life lived in a place where people are so hateful to one another over a problem that will affect the future of this city. It is mind-boggling to me that people cannot come together and speak in a civil tone to one another, that it is, you talk about transparency. I'm sorry, Mr. Curcio, did you not work with this law firm? How is that objective? The marijuana initiative, were those signatures released before they were certified? The signatures for this were released before they were certified. Knowing how much hate is in this town, one against the other, we feel as though a target has been put on our back. Everybody knows where we live. Everybody knows who signed it. And it didn't even pass. So there was no need to put all the names and addresses of those petition papers to the entire city. If it had been certified, then of course, it would have gone in a packet, and that would have been appropriate. The way this was handled was anything but appropriate. And yet, there will be no repercussions. Nope, nothing will happen. Because for the last 5 years since I've lived here permanently, even though I've owned here for 20, nothing has happened when things are really important. They just get pushed along and pushed along and pushed along. So I expect nothing to come from this on either side other than more hate, more targeting of people, more saying that the NNN people don't want any STRs, which is such a falsehood. If anybody with a 5th grade reading level would read what the proposal was, they could easily see that is not what they are about. We are not a bunch of old, stupid people, as we are portrayed to be. And it really is so disrespectful. If I had a chance to not move here, I would take that chance, because I have never seen anything like this. And I lived in the suburbs of Chicago most of my life. Those politicians are known for being corrupt and not paying attention and not doing what their constituents want. But you know what? You guys give them a pretty close second.
Hold your comments, please.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Good evening. Amy O'Sullivan, 91 North Shore Drive. I just had a couple points I wanted to make. For those of you who don't know, I sell real estate here, and we realtors have been trying to put our heads around the NNN's ordinance and how it's going to fix any problems. And I'm just here just to state that I think there are some issues, not only with the petition and how it was presented to residents, but also in the ordinance changes that they are proposing. One, I'm going to start with the 422 people. I looked through it myself. I saw people from the township who had signed it, so I don't think they haven't been thrown out, Joe, as you had said. I think maybe, I don't know, but I know they don't live there because I can see their addresses. Secondly, there were a few people who did sign it, and after I talked to them about it, they said they were told that it was to help corporations or prevent corporations from purchasing our real estate, and that's happening, and it isn't happening. We have the numbers, we have the proof, it's just not true. So I believe it's important. I will quibble on font size and what the petition states, because I think those things are all very important. But I also think when someone's signing a petition, they should know what it is, because I think some of the brigade was going around getting signatures stating that. One person signed it and said he was told that it was to protect rentals, because he's very for short-term rentals, and he signed it. And I was shocked to see his name on the list. So that's one thing. The other thing is I just am not sure what the problem is, really. If it's empty houses, I don't see how their ordinance is going to fix that, because it's only going to make more houses vacant and not full of families vacationing. If it's affordable housing, I really don't think that's going to make any changes there. If anything, it's going to make the houses in our current residential neighborhoods less affordable. If you look at the 900 block of Monroe Boulevard, there are 20 homes. This ordinance would allow 2 of those to be rentals over time. If you look at Fruit Street in the 500 block, so east of Center Street, there are 7 homes total on that block. So that residential neighborhood where right now residents can afford to buy, though there would be 2 rentals in that neighborhood. Then you go to the lake where there are $2 million houses along Monroe Boulevard that will really be out of reach of most of the residents that are working and living locally. There will be 2 rentals in those 20 houses. So why is pushing the rentals away from the lake, those larger blocks, and into the residential neighborhoods, how is that going to affect or improve affordability of housing? I don't see it at all. So that's just a question that I have. Then let's talk about North Beach, which someone earlier said has historically been the vacation area in South Haven. How is limiting two houses in each block, which I don't know how you'd even define a block over there, allowing those to be rentals, going to improve anything there? You have these small cottages. They've historically been vacation homes, and now you're going to limit in a very weirdly shaped neighborhood, try to first define a block and then only allow 2 per block. It's just, that's where they should all be, right? If that's what they're saying is true, is they want the residential neighborhoods to remain intact, then moving rentals in those residential neighborhoods, especially east of Broadway, where right now a lot of people can afford to buy, you're going to see 2 rentals per block every block now if this goes through. So it's just, to me, it just is nonsensical. I think we can all agree we want control, we want regulation. I believe there is regulation. We have permits that aren't even being used right now, which I think is just proving that what you did already, the short-term rental ordinance, is effective. There were, I think they said earlier, 4 complaints total last year. So I think I'm here in full support. I agree that we need more jobs, we need affordable housing, but I don't believe the ordinance changes as written are going to do any of that. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Hi, Tracy Baker. I'm a resident at 261 Black River Street, Unit B, so I'm in the condos over there. But professionally, I also work for Jakeway Realtors, and I'm the sales manager for the office here, and one of my responsibilities is the oversight of our short-term rental program. And I guess I first want to say that we work very closely with the city on the inspections. I mean, if you talk to the inspections department, we schedule all of our inspections with them. We go with the fire department. We are there on site. We have those conversations with our owners. So there's really no question about what's happening there. And I guess I want to commend the city, and I want to actually compliment the current ordinance that we have. There was a lot of time and energy that went into that, when it was enacted, and I think that the management companies in town have worked very hard to work closely with the city and make sure that our properties are in compliance with what's expected. I would encourage anybody that if you have problems with any of our properties, I'm also known as the problem desk in our office, and I'm the one who gets those phone calls. And I would suggest that if anybody's called our office with a complaint about any of the properties that we manage, they've received respect, and we've listened to them, and we've done everything we can to solve those problems. We have these conversations with our owners ahead of time. We have conversations with the guests coming in, and if we think there's a problem with somebody coming in, we have that conversation ahead of time. So the idea that there's not oversight and that there's not somebody keeping an eye on what's happening at these properties, at least in the case of our properties, is just flat out not true. The idea that corporations are coming in, I've kind of joked and said, I'd like to know who they are because I would like to talk to them about managing their properties. In our inventory, we have 56 properties in the South Haven area, and there's only one owner that owns more than one. In all other cases, it's one property, one owner, or switch it around, one owner and one property. So these are people who own them. They're not companies. They're not corporations. Are they owned in LLCs? Absolutely. People do that for liability protection. They're allowed to do that. They do that for tax advantages. But to turn that into a statement that these are owned by companies is not accurate. They're people who formed LLCs, and they're holding their property in their LLC. So I guess I just want to say that we would encourage you to move deliberately and slowly, and please consult all of the people that are included and are going to be impacted by this. When Carrie got up here and spoke, she talked about a large coalition, and the management companies in town are part of that coalition as well. That came together in a fairly short period of time, and the response was, I was surprised at, the 100 people that got on the phone calls and turned up at the meetings to have a conversation about what is happening and what is an accurate picture of what the owners look like and what they're doing. So again, I just want to say, the current ordinance, we've worked with the city on this for years, and we would encourage you to respect the process that was in place that put that ordinance in place. And moving forward, any changes to it, we're happy to talk about the problems that actually are there and come up with solutions that make sense. So thank you all for your time.
Thanks for your comments. Okay.
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. Just a couple of points that I'd like to clarify that I've heard tonight. I heard that we get more property taxes from those properties that are not homesteaded, which is true. They do pay more property tax but from what I understand, that property tax is retained, that extra tax is retained by the state. That is not retained by the city. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that I've heard tonight from people who don't want to move ahead with changes in the ordinance that it will make homes less affordable, which means it will push prices up. And I've also heard tonight that it will impact residents by bringing prices down. So both can't be true. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Oh, just made it, Joe.
Let me get situated before you start the clock. Thank you. Appreciate it. Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. I want to start by saying to Mayor Scott, if I offended you and anyone else in the last meeting, it wasn't my intention. I simply come here with great passion trying to save a neighborhood that I love and grew up in. And like many that have spoken on tonight, I'm here again to urge this staff and this council to show some form of leadership in doing what is best for this city by adopting a new petition proposal or by making the necessary steps needed to help save what's left of our neighborhood. which is being, in my opinion, hijacked by investment groups, outside developers, and real estate companies. A week ago, 422 residents acted in good faith and signed a petition to help save their neighborhoods, which is being overpopulated with STRs. Keep in mind, South Haven has almost 3 times more than any other lakeshore municipality. Just up the road, the city of Holland has only 46 total STRs, with a cap of 25 on non-owner occupied dwellings. I urge this council not to turn a deaf ear on the voices of 422 residents who spoke loud and clear in their fight to save their neighborhoods. And as we move forward, and we will, I have no doubt that their signatures serve as a desire and vote to address our current ordinance, which values land over families and neighborhoods. In fact, the ordinance crafted in 2016 and later amended seemed to be built on the principle that economic value of properties is one of the most important indications of success for city management. The problem with that thinking, those involved placed all their eggs in one business basket, with no foresight in regards to the fact that it would result in a breeding ground for gentrification, which focuses more on creation and expansion of business opportunity than the well-being of its residents, as well as the loss of neighborhoods, its unique character and diversity. Council, the fact has been researched and documented by professionals, many professionals, along with this book that I brought with me entitled How to Kill a City, the Gentrification and Inequality in the Fight for the Neighborhood. If you haven't read it, I recommend that this staff and this council take time to do so. Also, to the staff and council and to this leadership team, keep in mind on tonight, it is impossible to embrace the same concept used in 2016 along with the current ordinance without turning a deaf ear to the concerns of 422 residents. And remember, every good leader knows some decisions cannot be determined based on dollar return, simply because you can't set a price or value on the loss of a neighborhood. The displacement of the displacement of families, the destruction of a culture, and the decreased affordability of life for every resident that lives within this city. With that being said, I want to leave you with a couple of quotes from this book based on its 1979 report done by MIT studies professional by the name of Philip Clay. He stated in this book, and I quote, "When a municipality opens itself up to gentrification and allow through zoning and tax breaks for outside developers and real estate companies to become the main actors in the neighborhood, it ceases from being a neighborhood." For gentrification is a new form of segregation, in my opinion, not with just white and black, but with the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. It is no secret that the community of color has been hurt the most because of STRs. In closing, as a city, we should be very proud of the 422 residents who stood up to fight in order to help save a city and a neighborhood they love. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Appreciate it. Was there somebody else coming? Nope. Going once, going twice. All right, let's move on. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your comments. Anything else on this group? We good? We're good?
Chair Scott.
Oh,
So you're asking for comments now?
yeah.
Okay, couple of them. I think the most important one, there's not a good and bad on this, in this issue. There's not good people versus bad people. Everything that I heard, the people who support STRs, with very few exceptions, would I disagree. Roxy, you know, I love your store, and I think the world of you. And I do think tourists help her store and many stores. I do think tourists are good for the community. I do think they have fixed up a lot of the houses that were in disrepair. I remember moving to the south side, and I was very surprised by the condition of many homes. I do think the people who feel they're losing their neighborhoods are absolutely right. There is a loss of neighborhood in this community. And we on city council, myself, and I'll speak for myself, my job is to represent the wishes of the community, number one. And number two, to base my opinion on facts. I take facts right here. The Upjohn Institute came out with a whole booklet. I have read it 3 times. And I just want to read a couple points that are worth mentioning. Everything I'm going to say is a quote from this. Quote, "The greatest challenge facing South Haven is not to become solely a beach town. This would limit the income growth potential of its residents and generate a greater demand for seasonal housing and city service. A higher proportion of jobs would become seasonal, low-wage service jobs, with year-round residents struggling in the winter months or be forced to drive long distances for jobs." That's not me speaking. So I have to temper what the short-term rental people want and what the residents want with facts. And I consider these facts. And I find it ironic that this city council and our mayor and our city manager, mainly Kate, has not had a meeting to present this. We have hired Jim Hedinger, our economic development manager. Why don't we have him give a presentation to the community? Because I think if we all understand each other's side and see what's best for the community, which is right here, maybe the discourse, maybe the disagreements will diminish and we'll find a reasonable balance. I'm not going to go into facts. I got them all outlined here, but there's so much information there that says that short-term rentals, in effect, are hurting this community long-term. It says it in there, and I have to go by what's in this book. So I'm asking that we at some point take a vote and support some measure that would have a better balance, that the short-term rental people can still be here, Roxy store will still grow and prosper, but the people will have a community again. And I don't think that's asking too much. The numbers of short-term rentals are asking for, pick a number, but they picked 250 from a current number, and we can't really use 600. It's really more, it's less than 400 business short-term rentals. We could do it through attrition. That's what they're recommending, which would happen over 10 or 15 years. No one's going to lose their license that has put their money up to have a business. No individual's going to be put out on the street because they suddenly lost their license. It'll happen for those who don't renew their licenses. And then eventually the number will come down to a reasonable number, and we can all and I'm not trying to preach to people, but I'm just trying to show a balance here, that we don't have to be on the opposite sides. My heart went out to the woman who felt she's never been in a community so divided and so many people against each other. I don't feel it. I still feel, I walk down the streets, I talk to everyone, and there's two sides of this. I don't feel that there's hatred. I know some people say there's money grabbers. There's old people that won't give up their home. They don't think forward. But I think there's a compromise, and I think this city council cannot sit on the fence anymore. We have to do something. And doing nothing, as that one woman said, is not what we've been elected to do. So I hope at some point we can make a decision to do something in this community so both sides win. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just say that I agree with Joe, and I hope we can figure out a balance, what we need for our town. I've been thinking about it a lot and reading about it a lot, and I just found one thing that I thought I should share. I appreciate everyone's viewpoint, and I really think that we can come together and move the city forward onto like a really wonderful, flourishing path year-round. But I did see something that I thought was interesting, which was, this is a quote, "As local legislators, city council members are responsible for and responsive to the citizens who elected them." That's from the National League of Cities. And I've said this before, but I'll just reiterate. When I'm up here, I will listen, I will try to find a balance, but I really am here to represent the residents in my neighborhood. And I know this petition didn't go through this time, but I do look forward to moving on a path to kind of fix what a lot of people see as a problem in our neighborhoods.
I would just add quickly that we're having this discussion tonight because of the NNN petition, and so the petition didn't go through, it's not going to end up on the ballot. We're not done. We're still want to have a workshop. We still want to move forward. We still want to find the balance. I think this was a good start that we're finally hearing from some of the short-term rental owners who hadn't been speaking previously. So I think we're getting closer to finding that middle, and we'll get there. We're trying to. That's our goal. It's still our second priority, is to work on short-term rentals.
I would just say to Joe, to say that we're not doing nothing is just totally unfair. So I disagree with you there. We set it as a priority. We set a schedule. We've got studies ordered. We've got surveys going out, workshops coming. So to say we're sitting here doing nothing is, to me, an insult. Secondly, to the people in the audience that feel the need to say we're pretty close to second best corrupt politicians from Chicago, or anybody with a fifth grade reading level would know that the NNN doesn't want to limit short-term, or doesn't want to get rid of short-term rentals. Those are the kind of comments that are dividing the community. And I would suggest that we all just take it down a notch and not insult one another in that certain way. Lastly, I would say I look forward to getting the information from the studies so that I can make a balanced decision from where I sit. And to me, my constituents in Ward 3, and we can talk about this during the workshop and stuff like that, I think there is a common ground. We've already limited the rental ordinance once since the inception. We've even had a moratorium once for Wards 1 and 2, while Ward 3 voted to stay out of that moratorium. So I think there's different ways that we can work as a council for the people of South Haven and the businesses of South Haven. If we just, I think the one lady said earlier in the meeting, if we just speak together without trying to insult or get that last shot into one another, or to say we're doing nothing. So I would just say in closing that I look forward to getting the information from the studies and the surveys. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else? All right. I guess, yeah, I'll just reiterate kind of what was just said, which is this is by no means the end. It is simply another step in this process. I'm not a fan of bypassing public input. I would miss this opportunity to spend an evening with all of you. So I was disappointed at the particular comment you mentioned as well. We have to sit down, we have to dialogue, and I think for a lot of us, it's the question of if the end goal is how do we attract families here, then that's what we should be talking about. We all kind of beating around the proverbial bush here. How do you attract families here? We want kids here. We want, right? Again, we're going to get retirees. They're coming. We have that kind of mix. But who are we struggling to attract? Young professionals, families. I mean, I work with a lot of them, and they don't live here. Why don't they live here? That's how are we going to attract those people? Is getting rid of A going to give us B? We should be talking about attracting people here. We talk about, I always get sad when people say you're a tourist. I mean, we have tourism. Of course we have tourism. We have water. We'll always have tourists. But we have a lot of great businesses here in town. We have a business owner right out here who has a fantastic business with a lot of good, fantastic people. Drive around industrial parks. Unfortunately, the American economy, we're based on auto, certain things left over, things change. This city's always remained focused on, serving its citizens. That's what we're here for, right? You'll hear me oftentimes joke, what do we spend most of our time doing? We make sure when you get on, your lights turn on, your water turns on, you can flush your toilet, your streets are good, you got police, you got fire. That's kind of the function of government. That's our big job. It's very boring, but it's what we do. This other stuff is, important, but we're not out there actively, those big, beautiful billboards down by St. Joe, that's not us, okay? That's happening outside of this body. So we will support the city, its residents, and all the stuff that goes on here, okay? And I will continue to support a process to get public input, to hear from all sides, because we need to listen to everybody on this topic. We have a lot of businesses that I'm sure would like to get us more information. Well, I know that because I've heard it. A lot of individuals, and I want people to feel comfortable coming, talking, speaking. I appreciate everyone just kind of keeping it here tonight, and for the whole side, keeping it on the upside. I appreciate that. So it's easier to communicate when we act like that. Just saying, I appreciate it. So I'll just say there's more discussion to be had. So thank you. On that note, we're going to have an update from our fantastic police chief, Miss Natalie Thompson. And by the way, I'm having a lot of fun with a lot of our new police officers, by the way. They're a lot of fun.
In a good way?
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. So.
Good new officers. Thank you. I want to just start tonight. So in the midst of a pretty busy summer, all of our officers have been participating in an 8-hour scenario-based active assailant shooter training. And so this training is not a knee-jerk reaction with the tragedies that have happened recently. Our department has actually been maintaining this regular training in this area of response, which emphasizes a first officer or officers on the scene of an active shooter, whether it be at a school, a business, anywhere, to immediately engage the threat. So it's the idea, you're the first one there, you go in. So you don't wait for backup or perimeters. So like I said, we have been training under this model basically ever since the Columbine incident. That's when law enforcement across the country discovered that did not work. So like I said, we've been training under the model of first one goes in, and from there there's different teams that will set up perimeter. So at any rate, our whole department, we had a couple people that are out on medical right now, so when they are back, we will get them back into the training. And this is actually, as of this year, the MCOLS, the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, which is the agency that licenses all police officers in Michigan after you graduate from an academy. Before you can start working for a police department, you have to get their permission, and they give you a license to be a police officer. They are now actually making this training mandatory for all certified officers in the state of Michigan. So that includes local, state, municipal, all police officers. So it is a good thing. The even better thing is that our department, we've already been doing it. So, and next, just have some updates. It's been a very very busy summer. The first chart seems to be pretty consistent. Our top 5 offenses, our top one is assault. And I had an email question that I need to answer, but someone wondered if this assault category includes domestic assaults. And my answer is yes. So maybe in the future, because we do assault as our top offense, I could break down domestic related assaults compared to all other assaults that are, don't have that domestic relationship. So that was a good question that I got today. So next time I can maybe break down the difference But assaults remain our top offense, followed by driving violations, and then the retail frauds and larcenies. That last one, invasion of privacy, that is what we file trespass complaints under. And then for our person crimes, again, the breakdown, assault, and again, that category that includes domestic assaults and all other assaults. And then we've got our sexual assaults, our CSCs, the the sex offense, non-forcible offenses. Those are other offenses other than a criminal sexual assault. That can be like an indecent exposure. So that is something that is classified as a sex offense that is not actually a sex assault. That's another question I had today. So I'll maybe be breaking down some of these person crimes so everyone can understand exactly what they are. And then for the property crimes, of course, motor vehicle, that's driving crimes, drunk driving, crashes, our motor vehicle violations, and retail frauds are pretty close, followed by frauds, damage to property. But our retail frauds have stayed pretty high this summer. And most of those are from our big box stores, Walmart, Meijer, had a few from Menards. Next, I've got our calls for service, and our total calls right now are 3,099 for the year. And if you notice, our total last year was just a little over 4,000, so we're en route to probably topping what we had last year. Our arrests also, as of right now, we have passed our total arrest for last year. So we have 236 arrests, and this is as of July 31st. And last year, our total was 227. So the officers are working hard. Citations and warnings to date, as of July 31st, we are up to 913. And the total last year was 909. So we've also surpassed citations and warnings compared to last year. The next charts are complaints that get called in. To date, we're up to 1,202. Last year, the total was 1,702. So again, I believe we'll surpass that. Foot patrol hours, 281 for the year. It's 401 total last year. I can tell you a lot of the hours the officers has been spending on the beaches. I'm not sure if they're putting those under foot patrol or others, so that is still something I got to make sure everyone is consistent how they are counting those hours, because we've been spending a lot of time on the beaches. Property checks, and again, these are primarily done by our night officers. So we're up to 623 compared to a total of 614 last year. So we've been hitting those hard. And then blight complaints. We handle many blight complaints for South Haven Township, and that is the majority of these. We will assist with blight for the city also on occasion, but the majority of these are for the township. We are the main officers that will, if the township asks, we will initiate a blight complaint and do the initial complaint and then turn it over to the township for further action. So that's what those are. And then the next two sheets are just breakdowns on the type of citations. And so of interest, golf carts, we have written 36 golf cart citations. And then for parking, 196, but that is in addition to our new traffic enforcement team, which is doing very well. And then you've got the moving and traffic moving violations. And then the all other, the ordinance violations that can include anything involved with the beach, any of the ordinance any of the other ordinance violations that are not under a state statute. So the officers have been working pretty hard this summer. And last week went pretty well for Blueberry Festival. Had a couple, Friday and Saturday night, were a little bit busy. We actually had a lot of help from the community. In fact, Pastor Wilkins is still here. He helped out. We had the potential for, saw a party posted on Facebook around Elkenberg Park and Fruit Street. It's just nice when we can reach out to the residents in the area. I know Pastor Wilkins was one person who really helped support us and keeping bad things from happening. So I just want to give a shout out to him. But from our standpoint, it was busy, but it went very well.
Very good. I appreciate it. Any questions, comments? Go ahead.
Chief, I had one, and it's just maybe just kind of a clarification. You talked about foot patrol and property checks, and I've seen the officers in the evenings going through the downtown stores, making sure the doors are locked. Is that the same, foot patrol, and is that a property check, or is that different? Or
Yeah, and that's a good question, and that's the battle. Having all the officers record it the same way, property checks too are, in their vehicles and, some areas of town, the car lots, some of the businesses, homes. We get a lot of special requests for property checks of homes for people who may be away. So yeah, that is another thing. Some people do foot patrol because they're doing foot patrol and checking, the security of the downtown. So we are trying to get everyone consistent. The night shift, they're pretty consistent, but, day shift does a lot of the foot patrol too. And, with some of the businesses that close at 4 or 5, day shift will do some property checks too. So, but that is a good point. It's, now that we've got the, the good database, the good record management system and these graphs, but just really getting everyone to document things all the same. We're getting better, but that is actually a very good question because you could actually put it either way, technically.
That's what made me wonder.
Right.
Thanks.
But that was a good question.
Go ahead.
Chief Thompson, thank you for everything that you and your officers do. I really like the statistics that you present, and one of the things that I was wondering about was, and maybe you're already doing this, but looking at, like, for the Board of Public Utilities, we look at power outages and we locate where the power outages are on a map so we can kind of see if there's certain, like, trouble areas. Do you do that already for, like, citations or other types of statistics to?
You know what, we don't, but that's a good idea. It might be nicer to see visually instead of on the graphs. So no, we don't, but I think I could probably get some help and have this information put on a map like that. That's
Yeah, you can talk to
actually a very
Bill
good
Hunter.
idea.
He might have some suggestions on
Okay.
how to do that.
I will do that. Thank you.
It's going right to Ryan. I know who's going to get it. That's a good question.
But
That's a
that
good one.
is actually a very good idea. Thank you.
That's a good one. My only comment is that thanks for, I know you did the school training and whatnot, and thanks for doing it, and it breaks my heart that we have to do it. I feel for the teachers and the students, and it makes me sad every time I see these kids having to go through those scenarios, so hope we as a country can someday do better. So on that note, I think we're going to do a quick recess so we can.
5-minute recess. Yep. I'd make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Motion is second for a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back and finish this up. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, see you in 5, 9:10. That was Deck and Talks. Wow. Yeah. I want a motion to go back into open session.
A motion to go into open session.
I'll second.
All right, motion second to go back into open session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're back at it. Next, citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda. So again, if you'd like to talk to something other than no rentals, none of the other good stuff, come on up, state your name, address. You'll have up to 5 minutes to address this board. So again, on something we have not already discussed.
Okay, again, Joe Escavage, 505 St. Joseph Street, been here since '77. Golf carts, is the city looking at maybe getting rid of them or not? And the concern I have is because we do allow them, I've seen young mothers with infants on their laps, no safety belt, going down the street. I've seen like maybe 15-year-olds driving them. Does that open the city up to liability? You know, if somebody gets killed on a golf cart, that's something we need to look at. 2 years ago, the city changed the traffic signs on St. Joe coming from Michigan to Erie, and then you turn right and you go down Erie, and then you get on Monroe Boulevard. In the past, like I said, I've been here since '77, that was a yield sign on St. Joe heading south, and then you'd turn right, and there was no stop sign there, and then you go on. The big concern I got with the change, now they got Erie Street straight through, no stop signs until you get down to Monroe Boulevard. Erie Street allows parking on both sides of the road at that intersection. And more than once, I've come from my house heading north on St. Joe Street, stopped, and you can't see a low-slung car coming from the east towards the beach. So, yeah, on Erie.
Gotcha, on Erie. Gotcha. I
Yeah,
gotcha. So
and
two-sided parking. Got it.
I would
Look at
like
that.
to see it go back, except keep the stop sign down on the corner of Erie Street and St. Joe. Bring back that yield sign, because that's a flow of traffic that's always been there, and there's no parking allowed on St. Joe in that stretch between Michigan and Erie Street. Keep that, bring back that caution sign, put a stop sign for Erie, and that's the one point I have on that. Another thing, I see you guys repainted the bike paths on Broadway. I've seen in the years since you put them up, I've seen maybe 3 people riding bikes on that. And the most people I talk to that ride bikes, they say there's no way in heck they're going to go on Broadway. You know, because it's dangerous. It's a dangerous situation. That's a high traffic area. And I'd like to see those gone, but again, that's up to you guys. And we took down the traffic light on Superior where it crosses Broadway because the school is gone. They originally had it for the school buses. But nowadays, with only one lane of traffic going each way, I've sat there for almost 2-3 minutes trying to make a left-hand turn. You can make a right-hand turn, but if you're making a left-hand turn during the summertime, it can be hard. And I talked to the chief about the parking with the little hashtags at the end of the angle parking downtown. And she says they are writing tickets, but again, I still see a lot of people with these big trucks. And hopefully, if nothing else, write them a warning ticket and write down their license plate. And then if they do it again, you give them a ticket. And that about covers what I wanted to say. Thank you.
I appreciate it, thank you. And but I've noticed some improvement in the parking, I will say, so I appreciate it. So thanks for that, and we'll look at that parking. Anybody else?
Hey. Hello, Elaine Herbert, 404 North Shore Drive. And this is about the zoning ordinance, big surprise. And, you know, it's funny, I kind of agreed with some of these STR people about the 2018 STR ordinance. I hated it at the time, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been, and it was kind of a compromise. And what would have been really, really great is if it would have been as good as it could have been. And what I think we might want to do is kind of fix it from inside the house. Not just all of this big stuff from outside the house, but fix it from inside the house. And that's why today I filed an application. You know about it. It's in your mail. I filed an application to ZBA for an interpretation of the zoning ordinance. It's timely. It's filed in time for the September meeting. And my concern in this application is for the interpretation, for the proper enforcement of that STR ordinance. This requested interpretation focuses primarily on how a business STR established as being grandfathered, and when it's so established, what are the compliance obligations with the zoning ordinance and the code of ordinances. STRs are currently not annually inspected for updated zoning compliance. A business has been deemed grandfathered under decisions made years prior when granting past permits, and it's never challenged, no matter what changed in the property, with the owner, or in regulations since. This same grandfathering umbrella is being invoked by city manager to block appeals to ZBA to challenge annual permit decisions. So I believe that an interpretation of a view to the entire scope of the ordinance is required. I have also asked for an interpretation of the sections of the ordinance regarding application procedures, who has the authority to hear and decide ZBA applications, and of course the fees. Consider what happened not long ago in 2015 regarding realtor signs, as an aside. A resident called the zoning administrator, Linda Anderson, to inquire whether for rent signs could be placed on properties the same as for sale signs. Ms. Anderson didn't even require that resident to file an application with $300 to ask that question or extort that resident for another $1,500 in escrow fees. She simply brought the question to ZBA as a regular agenda item where it was heard and decided. The city's zoning administrator here is new to the position, and the city's STR administrator is new, and without a doubt, I assure you, is granting permits that are not compliant with zoning. City manager has publicly admitted that sad errors have been made because of staff turnover. And this is exactly the right time for these questions to be heard and decided by the ZBA. You're asking for more money to answer these questions inside zoning, more staff. It's time to let some of this stuff go to the ZBA. That's what they're for. As ZBA requires of this applicant, 8 bound printed copies, the application form, narrative with such information as necessary to decide the request, and also the circumstances that give rise to the interpretation request, and $300 was dropped at City Hall today. Since my application has been it's also filled, but it was filed with the required data in proper form with the fee paid, it therefore shall be placed on the calendar for a hearing, also mandatory via the South Haven zoning ordinance. I request that the City Council support this request for ordinance interpretation and not allow it to be blocked by zoning administration. We all need this. Stop letting the fox guard the hen house. Our community and all stakeholders need CBA now. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anybody else? Silence. All right. City manager comments.
All right, well, thank you. I do want to give some kudos to the National Blueberry Festival Committee, the Chamber of Commerce, the Bobby Walker Ministries, for all the successful execution of all their events last weekend. I know it's a large undertaking, with lots of moving parts. Rotary, Kiwanis, both put on breakfasts. The airport had a wonderful fly-in. It was a very nice weekend. I think a lot of things went well. I also want to give kudos and shout-outs to various city staff for all their assistance with making this a very easy festival, an easy, getting out barricades, cones, working with event organizers, the 5K, the parade, and such like that. So streets, parks, SHPD, Shays, and our very own Ani Turner, who did such a fantastic job with the flower beds. I really appreciate all of their work. I do want to say that there is an Eagle Beach Walk tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Unfortunately, I don't know where they're leaving from. I've not been able to ascertain. So I don't know if they're going in the South Beach or the North Beach, but they've been sending out emails. They just never said an origination plan for where they're going to be starting from. And then lastly, I did want to just assure council, I know that we've had some disappointing some tragic events on the beaches last week. It's my plan that after our beach safety period ends in about approximately October, I'd like to bring an update to council just to kind of see where we are with the implementation of the beach safety recommendations that were adopted last year that staff have been implementing. I know we still have some temporary gates up on the piers, so hopefully we have some better news coming from the Corps of Engineers that should be weighing in on our application to install permanent gates. But I do want to just assure council that I'll be bringing just a review and an update to council in October about beach safety practices. And those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Kate? Nothing. All right. Oh, city council comments. I'll start with my teacher on the left. When are we going back?
Monday.
Monday. Oh, sorry.
All right. First, I want to say thank you to everyone for all their comments, and they were heard. I also want to send out a kudos to Mr. Bobby Walker. Job well done for his tournament over the weekend. And I did have an opportunity to be downtown for the Blueberry Fest, and it was so much fun. And it was such a great feeling, and that's what South Haven is all about. And that's what we wanted to remain, to be a community where we're having fun, and there's families, and there's kids, and there's tournaments, and there's a community. When I went to the park, there were so many people, and they were just having a good time. And it just reminded me of I'm not going to say the old days because I'm not old, but I would say, back in the day, those days. And it's just good memories that make you feel good. And, those are the things that we want to keep to heart. And that's what we want our city to continue to thrive on, is families. It just looks so nice. I mean, I was down working. I'm not trying to be long, sorry. But I was downtown, and I even called Kate. I said, Kate, come get some barbecue, because the church was downtown, and we were selling, we were on the food truck, and it was just fun. I met so many great people from so many different places, and it was just nice. Even one guy was like, I really like your personality. I think he wanted to hire me to be a salesperson, but it was just a lot of fun. And I just want to remind everyone, I think we're better together than we are divided. And I like what someone said earlier. It's not about sides. It's just about us coming together. And I think that we can disagree to agree. We all want what's best for this community because this is our community. This is just not for the haves. It's for everyone. It's for the have-nots too. So I just want us to remember it's about all of us, not just one group of people. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you. And thanks for being a teacher. We need good teachers, so thank you.
No comments.
There you go. Thanks for being a boat guy. We need you too. Just saying.
My comments, teachers, we start on Monday the 22nd, but the kids on the 29th. So watch out for kids walking to school, riding their bikes to school. And that kind of gets me back to Mr. Miskevich. I hope I'm saying his name right. He asked about the bike lanes. I must be one of the 3 that uses it because when I do get up in time to ride my bike to school, I do ride down Broadway. But that's only one of the reasons those bike lanes are there. They're also it's a traffic calming measure to try and bring the speeds down and also to make it safe for people to cross the street because all of those of us that live in Ward 2, it's always sketchy crossing Broadway or Phoenix. And he mentioned the light at Superior. See, this is like a big project of mine. It was MDOT that took down the light at Superior and Broadway. It wasn't the city of South Haven because that's part of the trunk line. I remember at one point we asked about getting it back, and they said they'd give us a traffic circle. Which now that those are a little older, maybe we could think about that. Yeah, we could ask the public because that'd be a good way to get across that street and something like that. So then my other comments are there's what Kate alluded to. Whenever I hear the sirens headed to the beach, my heart that's the worst. And I was happy that I did get to touch base with Kate and that she already has a lot of things in the works. And she mentioned this meeting that with all the neighboring beach towns coming up in October. So a lot of things we are listening. I sure I can speak for everybody that it hurts our hearts when we hear this, that someone else has lost their life in our town. I even saw Chris Campbell, who was on city council, had a post today on Facebook about that I had never heard about because he's a kiteboarder. When the wind's out of the north, that's when he gets excited because then he can go surf the big waves. And what his point was, that's also when it's the most dangerous. And he knew because of the length of our pier, how it affects the waves, and he knew about the sandbars out there that it causes the waves to break bigger on the South Beach. So these are probably the things that we're going to start looking at. And so maybe we'll go to red faster. We'll use different things like kiteboarder information to go to red. So anyway, we are worried about it. We are thinking about it. And we hope to get better at it. Those are my comments.
Good comments. And thanks for being a teacher.
Thank you.
Not a teacher. I also just wanted to have that on my radar. Lifeguards, that conversation if we need to have that again, or at least some water safety. And just, I'm glad that we're going to be checking on our progress and seeing if we can improve in any areas. That's just a big thing that I've heard about this last week and important to me too. So that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of them have left, but when I saw the number of people that were here today, I just had to say to myself, wow, that's great. We got a lot of people that were here, and I must say that we heard from people on both sides, and everyone was respectful and listened to the other side. And I want to thank everyone that was here. Even if you didn't say anything and you were here to listen. And that's one of the things that we up here in City Council are doing is we're listening, and by people coming and giving us our comments, it's helpful. So thank you for that. Thank you for the Blueberry Festival Committee. Those guys did a great job. I also heard a lot of positive comments on the Blueberry Festival from people. And like Letitia, I talked to people that were here, and they were having a great time. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to congratulate and be grateful for all the residents in this town that stood up and started the non-discrimination ordinance, and not one person stood up against it. So I was proud of them, and I'm proud of our council because we voted it in unanimously. I think it's important. When it comes to short-term rentals, something in the Upjohn study talks about leadership. And I'm going to quote it. It says, "It's no longer adequate or sustaining to react to events. As with a strategic economic development plan, South Haven must become aspirational." The next part of it says, "The community must get uncomfortable with the status quo that no longer serves the best interests of the community." That is right out of a study. So I interpret that very clearly, that we can't do things the way we've been doing it. And I'm sorry if I was interpreted to say we're not doing anything. We are. We have it on our number 2 priority. We're talking about it. My concern has always been we didn't start early enough. That would have then stopped the NNN from trying to take this to a vote, because taking it to a vote basically takes it out of our hands had that passed. And I remember Brian Doucette always saying, you've been elected to make those decisions, so that should not happen. So I just wish we could move faster. Now, some people would say we can always move faster. I had my own business. It drove me crazy when I couldn't make decisions immediately, get everybody together and make a decision. I know this is city government. I'm still going to say it over and over again. I wish we could move faster. And I agree with some of the other comments that the people who spoke in favor of short-term rentals, I wrote them down, all the key points. There's hardly any I disagree with. The people who want less short-term rentals, there's hardly one that I disagree with. I just think we got to come together and find a middle ground, and we have to compromise. And we got to do what is best for the community. And I'll say it over and over again, the Upjohn study has so much good information. It could be a guide for us how to handle this issue. And I would like to suggest at some point we have someone come in, do a PowerPoint presentation and outline the Upjohn study, so everyone in the community and all the people in City Council can see what's contained in it, because it's chock full of good information. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, so, yeah, I'll just echo Jeff said, what Kay was saying as far as the beach safety issue. We will continue to review it. We are all very concerned, and we want to, obviously, anything we can do to address that, make that better, we will continue to do. I mean, that's, you have our commitment to that. Community surveys have been mailed out. If you've got one, please fill it out. Send it in. Yeah, get nice NDO ordinance. We got that done. Thanks to everybody up here for doing that. Blueberry Festival, Bobby Walker, thank you. Pastor Wilkins, thank you for your help. Appreciate that, for heading that off. Actually, I'm part of what's titled the Great Lakes Coalition, which is a group that's looking at some of the issues regarding shoreline erosion. And one of their pushes is try to get kind of the government to recognize the challenges caused by pier structures, movement of sand, and some of those issues. And actually, they had a meeting on Saturday, and I will just say it was a typhoon on Saturday morning in Holland. So people from Holland may have thought we were rained out, but it was quite nice here when I got back, I will say. So we lucked out on the weather. I guess I just want to recognize that we did have a meeting again with LMC last week, trying to kind of bring them to the table as we talk about economic development and business retention and different things. So we're trying to kind of continue to increase the presence out at LMC and get classes going and talking about everything from how do we help our businesses to we have a new marina, a Gull Lake Marina, maybe looking at some support services for that, marine mechanic, you name it. So trying to kind of, again, cultivate that business atmosphere in the community. So that's encouraging and hopeful. Other than that, kid number 1 dropped off to college. 2 more to go. So, yeah. And again, thanks, everybody. I appreciate everybody just being kind, being respectful tonight. It was appreciated. We will continue to take your input. We will continue to move this forward. As has been noted, we have some good information. We'll get some more good information. We'll listen, and we'll come up with a plan to move forward. So on that note, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Good night, everybody. Boom.